Hello, everybody. It is the fourth day in April. Actually, February. I can make mistakes before people get in. It's the fourth day of February. April's the fourth month. It's the second month. Okay. Okay. I just sat through the entire State of the Union address, and up is down, left is right. Um, I will get to that part. I'm just waiting for a couple people to file in. Um, so there's some themes that keep recycling in America and here on YouTube. And before I get into the State of the Union, I will say that the things that I was noticing in my day that I can talk about was I had one of those discussions about uh, is education worth it? And I gave the example myself again that there are jobs here in the Denver metro area that require a master's level degree. But if you were to take the student loan debt that you would have to attain that degree and then subtract it from the wages that they are offering, you get less than minimum wage. So then the only real benefit to getting that higher education is variety in the jobs that you're allowed to have, because these are jobs that fully require that you have a master's level degree, because in order to get a license to work in that field, you have to have a master's degree from an accredited university. It's in the law. So if you're going to be doing billing for those kinds of jobs, you have to have that uh, level of credentials. So the only uh, benefit to going and acquiring all that student debt, or maybe you had a silver spoon in your mouth and your parents uh, paid your way, you know, the only benefit to spending all that money and all that time in investing in your own education for a little bit more and doing uneducated labor. And some of it isn't even like blue collar. Some of it's still, you know, desk jobs, but it's just not as high level of a desk job. Maybe not as, you know, mentally engaging, because you're not allowed to do a lot of the stuff that the licensed people can, that the educated people can. But uh, pretty much in my area, there are many jobs that need to be shamed for offering such low wages for educated people. Um, the other thing I noticed, I'm going to check one more time since we're right in the middle of the stream, is that the Iowa results came out, and it was only a partial results with 62% reporting, and Buttigieg was ahead. Okay, now they're 71% reporting, and Buttigieg is still ahead. He's like 26.8%, and Bernie Sanders is 25.2%. And Joe Biden is now over Amy Klobuchar, which is different than Bernie's numbers last night. He's retaken fourth place. Elizabeth Warren is in third place. But still, that shows, almost half of the vote going to the progressive candidates. And Pete Buttigieg, you know, I've got that conspiracy minded leaning in me that the fact that his campaign had previously paid for work done by the same company that made the app that is creating all this confusion. To me, this says that maybe there was some shadiness going on, some little bias in the vote tallies. And what I'm going to say about that is this should have been vetted. The company that's providing this service to the polling workers should not be a company that's ever provided services to candidates, because it at least has the appearance of impropriety. And then I found out that it wasn't just Pete Buttigieg. His campaign just came out and admitted it right away. There are other candidates who have also used the same company for services for their campaigns, Joe Biden's campaign being one of them. So it's just that Buttigieg, being the first out the door to admit it, got the initial flack from conspiracy theorists that I've been reading on uh, the internet. Um, let's see. Now, since I've got a couple people watching, we will go into the SJW State of the Union Address 2020 review. I've got Misty on the other side of the couch. She was looking very beautiful.
You mean State of the Union address, the Oprah Winfrey version?
Yeah, the Oprah Winfrey version.
You get a Medal of Freedom. You get your husband back.
You are a friend of the show. Thanks for commenting. Um, what I will say about the way that I titled this live stream, and probably will in the future, is that I noticed that immediately they will get demonetized because I used the term SJW, and apparently there's so many people making fun of social justice warriors that it's now a thing where they just automatically demonetize you for using the acronym SJW, social justice warrior. And so it's going to be hard to reclaim it because I have to just go into it knowing I'm not getting paid if I call myself an SJW. I thought about making it like the justice informed perspective, but like, I want to call it something that everybody's just going to know what I mean, you know? So here I am, world's worst SJW, uh, with my actual social worker, old lady by my side. She was looking pretty before, and then she went and took a shower. She's back in the uh, turban, the towel turban. Mm. And she doesn't want to be on camera with the towel turban on.
At all?
She says at all, but with the towel turban on, especially. I'm never going to get that to happen. Um, okay, and Storm Singer's already talking about how uh, we have the manifest destiny in space being put on by Donald Trump. Yes, that was a part of it. So to begin, I'm not going to summarize the entire thing. I'm going to skip around a little bit because just for brevity, I don't want to make this as long as the actual State of the Union was, which was a little bit too long for Misty.
But good news, Trump's a socialist.
Yeah. So he started by saying that America's fortunes are on the rise and the years of economic decay are over. Yeah, it's not something that I feel being one of the middle class people, I guess, that the fortunes are on the rise because as much as wages are stagnant and the price of things keep going up, especially housing, I'm not feeling it here in Metro Denver.
So there are more jobs than ever, but that has nothing to do with Trump. That has to do with Colorado economy.
Yeah.
However, they are not paying a living wage, and many people are having to work two jobs.
2 or 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially if you're in a person household.
Yeah.
Sometimes they are. Don't take that this way.
What?
I said turn that this way.
I'm not going to put the camera on you.
Hey.
I just figured that it would get better acoustics.
No. Quit it right now.
Okay.
I will knock that whole thing off.
When it comes to the camera being on her when she doesn't want it, she is not afraid to do like domestic violence on me. World's worst SJW.
the abundance of jobs doesn't say much when the fact that you still have to work, like in the case of some of my clients, 60, 70 hours a week or more to be able to just afford a crummy apartment.
You guys give me some thumbs up in the chat, not on the video, in the chat, if you can hear Misty. Um, One of my chatters just said that Trump is Misty's president.
And
She's not going to refute that one. I guess we're not drinking the SJW Kool Aid enough. Um, but yeah, we don't want him to be. The fact that he is something that we have to come to terms with. Hound Dog says that he can hear
all right.
you. So the next thing I want to talk about is the snorting into the mic.
Oh my God, his cocaine addiction has to stop. The deviated septum he has is really causing problems for my misophonia.
Okay. So to me, there were moments in this State of the Union that reminded me of Darth fucking Vader.
He's not even that cool. Shut your mouth. And his dentures kept falling out.
Towards the end, his dentures were giving him some problems. So there was that. But he also started saying that unemployment numbers were at record lows.
That's a lie. Maury Povich, that was a lie.
Um, the way that those numbers get reported, eating, and this goes back to the Obama campaign or the Obama administration as well. If people go so long without a job while they're searching for a livable wage that they just get so uh, distraught that they just remove themselves from the workforce and accept their fate, they get removed from the numbers because it's people who are actively searching
But
for
that's
a
not
job.
even it. Just the reported numbers themselves. We had lower unemployment rates in the 40s and the 50s.
Yeah. And Trump likes to say, like, this is the best ever for everything, right? Um Thank you guys. We get all your thumbs up. We know that you can hear Misty. um so economic success was a big theme, and I think that it's probably because he's trying to be more left than his potential political opponents, that he started talking about Hispanics having great unemployment numbers, black people, that most of the jobs that were created went to women. Veterans have low unemployment. Workers without a high school diploma have low unemployment. New Americans have low unemployment. And that's weird. When he's talking about them at this particular part of the speech, he calls them new Americans.
Well, and
Right.
when he was talking to the Border Patrol guy, he was like, saving migrants.
Yeah. Yeah.
You mean people crossing the border illegally that are getting caught up in the desert?
So it seems like he was pandering to every different demographic in what some people call the social justice stack, you know? And so it's weird that he's calling out all of these different demographics that don't usually vote for him, you know? And then he said that wages were rising fast. And I was like, what? This is not something I'm seeing in my area because for whatever rising wages there are, it is far outpaced by the cost of living and the cost of housing. The only rising wages I've received in the last decade are because I worked hard to get more credentials and get a better job.
Well, so if he's talking about the minimum wage raising, that has nothing to do with him. That's being done mostly in liberal cities that are increasing the minimum wage. Second, if he's talking about overall wages, it's because of like what I was talking about, how people are working two jobs. The
then
federal
he's
government sure hasn't done anything to increase wages.
then he's talking about how it's a good thing that millions of people are off of welfare and off of food stamp rolls. But what that means is that people are caught in this area where they make just enough that they don't qualify for any more assistance, which traps them into still being in poverty because you can work your way to this certain level where you still need help, but you don't get help.
And they don't make enough to survive.
Yep.
The threshold for getting quote unquote welfare is very, very low. A family of four, if they make close to $800 a month, they don't qualify for that anymore. How are they going to pay for rent and utilities and gas for the car and everything else with that?
So then
Fucking joke.
Trump brought out the kid. I'm just going to call him Space Force Kid. Okay, his grandfather was a Tuskegee Airman, so he was African American. But this Space Force kid had an Asian name, and so he's got like double minority status. And uh, Trump put a spotlight on him, right? And then uh, it was Jediah and Stephanie, a black mother and daughter couple that he was talking about school choice, and then he gave out the opportunity scholarship to uh, Jediah, and
You get a scholarship.
that's why Misty's calling this the Oprah State of the Union address because he's just gifting people things left and right, you know. So, and he was making a show of it. Like I have not seen a State of the Union address like this. There was so much planted, staged stuff going off. Um, during this point, oh, somebody else said Ellen. Oh,
Yeah.
uh, yeah. Storm Singer says Trump and the Republicans have been moving economically left and fast. Okay, there's more. So during this point in the State of the Union, I was actually also on this laptop here, and I was seeing that people were talking about Pelosi's facial expressions and that she was reading stuff during the speech instead of paying attention
She was
to the
reading the
president.
speech.
She was reading like the lines of the speech and she was shaking her head, and it was like she wasn't paying attention to him in front of her. She was like, and it was actually number two on Twitter's trending. It was Pelosi, right? But back to the State of the Union. Uh, Trump was talking about how historically black colleges were getting more support from his administration, and that's like going far to the demographics of the progressive stack, right? Um, bringing healthcare insurance costs down. Uh, that's like fixing healthcare costs without doing it the Bernie way, which he called socialism, which will destroy the American economy.
But I want Congress to control the prices of prescription medication. That's not
Yeah.
socialist at all.
And then he stole the carrion out of Obama's mouth by saying that he's always going to protect patients with pre existing conditions.
Yep, that's
That's,
totally his idea.
yeah, that's straight from Obama's mouth.
That's never been done before.
So then he said he's always going to protect Medicare and Social Security. That's always been a Republican thing because of the voting bloc of older Americans. But
Okay, boomer.
yeah, but still, it's like he's grabbing at all the different demographics, including, let's not be ageist, you know, uh, let's see. He talked about a price transparency for medical bills law that he would like to be signed into law, and it'll take effect uh, next year.
But damn socialist.
Yeah, but yeah, if anything was going to destroy the healthcare economy as it is, it would be if there was more transparency in what people are getting billed for, because it would probably show that insurance companies are what make a whole bunch of profit on healthcare
Well, not like
as
that.
a middleman.
It would introduce true competition within the healthcare system.
That's true.
Because if you can call St. Joe's and find out how much they charge for a CAT scan, and then call, Lutheran Hospital and find out how much they charge for a CAT scan, you can choose who you want to go to, rather than just going wherever your insurance company tells you to
Yes, Hound Dog, I'll get to that in a minute. Jamie Demeter says, I heard AOC will run for president with Omar as a running mate. She's not old enough yet. We got to wait till like the next election on that, because there's there's rules about how old you have to be a president. Um, not there should be a cap, and I know that that's ageist, but when I look at Trump sometimes looking like he's got early onset dementia, I'm like, no, there should be a cap in in the age. But
go. And for half of the people in
yeah,
Congress.
if AOC could run, she probably would have been one of the front runners right now. And it's sad that somebody who's so promising as a candidate is being restricted by ageism towards young people. So let's see. Let's see. So at that point is when he said, "We will never let socialism destroy American healthcare." Right after saying that he's going to put price caps on prescription drugs. Um, so then, after he did all that pandering to all of the different minority groups that he could possibly cram into like the first 30 minutes of the speech, then he says, "Healthcare for illegal aliens will bankrupt us." You know, and I'm like, the hell, you just showed all of these different demographics that come from all over the world, and now you want to, when it suits you to make them the illegal problem, you start calling them illegal aliens instead
Well,
of.
when he was talking about legislation to end late term abortions, and he said something about we need to realize that every life is precious,
Yep,
except illegal aliens.
except illegal aliens. And then he's talking about the wall, which the wall and healthcare for illegal aliens being something that will bankrupt us are two things that are like totally at odds with his pandering to the minorities that he was pandering to before.
The
Um,
wall that a huge section just got blown over by wind.
yeah, Misty was so laughing about that section of the wall that blew over the wind. It was pretty funny. Um, so then he said that we're moving to approve medicines faster, right? And I'm like, hold on,
How was that good?
yeah, don't we want more, security and knowing that these medicines aren't going to have horrible side effects? And why are we approving these things? Which hopefully it's just removing the red tape delays and not the actual safety delays in approving shit. Um, yeah, that was kind of scary. And so he called for the prices of prescriptions to be coming down, called for legislation on that, which is government inserting itself into the healthcare system. Uh, which if he's angry about like socialism being something that would destroy the healthcare economy, why is he angry angry enough at the price of drugs to uh, restrict it so that the government could set it for everyone.
Because he knows darn well his base doesn't have critical thinking skills and they work off of simpleton labels. And as long as you don't label it something like socialism, they're not going to know that it's a socialist practice. And they're just going to like, I want my drugs to be cheaper.
So yeah, I inflicted this entire State of the Union address on Misty. Like we watched it on the TV in the living room, and uh, I have to let her vent on this stream because she's right, and also it's got to get out so that she can go to sleep. Because I kind of riled her up by forcing her to watch the State of the Union so that we could cover it for you guys. Um, he said the opioid epidemic numbers are coming down, right? Let me just say that we had two different policies when it was Hillary versus Trump. We had Hillary promising tens of billions of dollars for opioid treatment, and we had Trump saying, "I'm going to get tough on crime and I'm going to build a wall." Right? Which of those policies do you think would have been better in treating the opioid crisis? You know, and I think what's treating the opioid crisis right now seriously is the fear of the fentanyl that hit the market. Because guess what's happened to all the opioid users, all the heroin users that were in Denver? They switched to meth because they're afraid that their heroin is going to be laced with fentanyl
Well, and I
and
have
they're
to
going to
say,
die.
naltrexone is helps a lot too. That helps
Yeah.
them kick the habit a little bit better.
And here's something scary: the meth dealers have started lacing their meth with fentanyl, chasing the profits that can be made by making a different high. So there's no way to be safe doing drugs, kids. Don't do the drugs.
The drugs.
The drugs. Drugs are bad, okay?
Okay, boomer.
All right. So then he said that we're going to eradicate AIDS by the end of this decade. He said that shit. And I'm like,
thank you, Trump, for that vaccine. You worked so hard on it. Oh my God!
of all the like Sylvia Brown level predictions that we could like fact check after a decade. So he's got 10 years, right? In 10 years, will the things that Trump put into place eradicate HIV? If I were a betting man, I'd bet against it. You know, we can't even eradicate the measles. The mumps. We can't eradicate things that
Well,
we used to have eradicated, and then anti-vax people.
I mean, they do have a vaccine that they're starting to test.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it ain't got anything to do with Trump.
Yeah, then we got to have people that are easily manipulated, like Trump supporters. Also, not be easily manipulated by anti-vax campaigns. Then there was this amazing bit of staged like showmanship. Rush Limbaugh was in the crowd, recognized as a cancer survivor. He obviously has lost weight because I didn't recognize him at
He's
all.
not. I don't think it was recognized him as a cancer survivor. He just said he's recently been diagnosed with stage 4. From what I understood, I could be wrong.
Well, he awarded him the Presidential Medal of Freedom and and had his wife put the medal on him and had his wife conveniently sitting right next to him. And yeah, Rush Limbaugh was tearing up, and I might be politically like the opposite of Rush Limbaugh, right? I could read the news headlines and tell you exactly what Rush Limbaugh is going to say about them in his 3-hour show, right? All it takes is a couple weeks of a coworker that indoctrinates you into the Rush Limbaugh school of excellence in broadcasting, you know, line of thinking, and then you will always be able to tell what Rush Limbaugh has to say about something. It's not that hard, right? But when I saw that moment, I was like, since it's a Republican president, giving an award to somebody who was very influential on the Republican Party, I at least understand this medal being awarded to him. If anyone did great for the Republican cause, it was Rush Limbaugh.
It's supposed to be somebody that fights for the freedoms of the United States.
And
what did Rush Limbaugh do besides eat a bunch of damn cheeseburgers?
We're not bitter. But yeah, it really takes you have to look at the perspective of a Republican in accepting this kind of award being given out to somebody who's such a demagogue. You know, um, I understand why it was awarded to him, even if I don't agree. Um, and Storm Singer says Rush Limbaugh got the Medal of Freedom for talking, which, by the way, is the way that Misty and I make our living.
I was about to say, I do that every damn day. Where's my damn Medal of Freedom?
We talk.
And I'm helping with that opioid crisis he's bragging about.
Yeah, we directly help the opioid crisis. We're both addiction counselors. Come on.
Excuse me. I'm an addiction therapist.
I think technically I'm listed as a therapist right now, but she is a therapist. I'm a facilitator.
I'm not a counselor. I don't have my CACs yet at all.
Yeah, I've got different hats that I wear: counselor, facilitator, therapist, instructor. Yeah, whatever they're going to pay me to do. So then in this speech, there was a 1 pound baby that is now healthy at 2 years old.
And Trump took credit for it
somehow. The modern medicine miracles that we have these days. And then there was a segue to banning late term abortion. And that's the spot where he said that every human life is a blessing.
Except illegal immigrants.
Except those illegal aliens. He didn't even say immigrants. He said aliens.
Yeah.
The illegal aliens that don't deserve our health care. Fuck them. They're not a blessing. Baby or adult. Those lives, don't deserve health care. But we need $50 million more for research for premature babies. At least everyone stood up and clapped for that part, because I'm like, if we're going to throw money at something, that's a good cause. I can get March of Dimes is actually my father's favorite charity, and that's what they deal with. So the next thing that blew my mind was he announced the 1 trillion trees initiative.
Yeah, because that's what we have to focus on with it. Not the fact that he's reducing regulations about our clean water. No, it's the trees. Save the trees.
So I think what happened was he saw hashtag Team Trees was so grassroots popular that now he's pandering to the people who will donate $1 to grow a tree. And he's like, I could build 1 trillion of them with the U.S. budget. I could have a trillion trees for you. If trees are what you want, I'm your candidate.
Well,
after dismantling the EPA.
We have to be realistic. Trump would be nothing if he wasn't riding on the coattails of something. His father, Obama, YouTubers.
So next, he was praising ICE officers for their work in getting rid of criminal aliens. He talked about the story of Rocky Jones being gunned down by a criminal alien who should have been deported by ICE because he had already broken the law 5 times before. And I'm like, seriously, you want to deport somebody who's 5 times had a felony in the U.S., I don't want to deport them. Hear me out here. If you deport them back to Mexico, they're just going to cross the border and come back. I would rather, if they broke U.S. laws on U.S. soil, fucking throw them in a U.S. prison. Why the fuck do we have to deport them so that they could just walk across your weak ass fucking border wall with so many fucking holes in it and so the wind can fucking blow it over.
Or continue to increase the reasons why people are trying to come across the border in the first place. It's all the rampant criminal activity and the crap going down there that people are fleeing in the first place.
Fucking logic right there. So, Paul says hi.
Hi.
Misty and Paul know each other from photography. Um, let's see. He said that we need to rework immigration laws, which it it uh, it kind of fit the rest of the theme of this address. He talked about the constitutional right to pray in public schools.
Hell no.
You know what? You have the right to pray in a public school right now. You just don't have the right to be somebody pushing it on kids.
Right. Exactly.
Kids can get together at the flagpole every morning before school,
Yep.
make a circle by themselves, and pray as much as they want. The problem is paying teachers to force kids to pray is not something we can do.
During normal school hours and conducted by school administrators.
I've seen it in normal school hours in they'll have like a hobby hour or a homeroom hour, and a future Christian athletes club will be meeting, and they'll go to the flagpole.
You can choose to be a part of that or not.
Yeah.
You can't choose to be a part of your homeroom class or not when they start busting out freaking prayer to.
Well, it happens during the homeroom hour. Like one of the homeroom days, they tell them to go to their clubs. And those clubs, if the kids get together and do it themselves, especially the future Christian athletes club, they can get around the flagpole and just decide to pray themselves. It's not being led by teachers. They can do it during every lunch period if they want. If the kids want to do it, they can go. No one's going to stop them from using their time.
Nope.
And if you do it silently in your head, you could do it every class time. Hopefully you're paying attention to what this teacher's saying. But if there's like some silent time where you're having trouble with your test, go ahead and do it mentally. Keep it to yourself. But you could, think the words. He said that we, the American people, cherish religion. And I'm just going to say.
Nope. Last time I checked, I was American.
Yeah, me too. I'm American, and it's not exactly something that I cherish. I might cherish my freedom to not have to associate with any religions, but I don't cherish religion itself. I cherish freedom
so I guess that means that Trump
of and from religion.
Trump is saying I'm not an American, so he's not my president. Found my out.
He said we're always going to protect the Second Amendment. That's pretty much standard fare. He said the Artemis program needs funding, and that's something that I agreed with. Misty.
Wait, what?
You agree with funding for the Artemis program?
Wait, what is the Artemis program?
That's where they're trying to put people on the moon again. It's a NASA program. I played that video with the...
My question is, what is the damn point?
Because we want to go to Mars.
Okay, if we're talking about just another moon landing, then that's stupid. If we're talking about furthering research to figure out how we can put some kind of base on the moon, fine. But we need to kind of figure that out before we put somebody on the moon again.
Hear me out. If we're the first people to have a woman walk on the moon, our country's dick is bigger.
I don't care about that shit. We're gonna be spending a bunch of money to put somebody on the moon again. For why?
Because it'd be the first woman on the moon.
Oh my god.
Love you.
You get a woman on the moon. You get a scholarship. You get a whatever.
World's worst SJW. Okay. Stormsinger wants mandatory praying to Thor. Uh, Paul says he remembers in 1962 that a teacher in the fifth grade was told to stop reading the Bible in the morning to the kids. That was 1962. I actually believe that there are classes that it's appropriate to read parts of the Bible to children when it adds context for things, such as if there's the most intertextual references for any book in English literature is actually from the Bible. So if you're reading Shakespeare and there's a passage that you wouldn't understand unless you were a Christian, I think it's appropriate for the teacher to then say, okay, but in the Bible, there's this line, and this is what that means. I think it's appropriate to read it in a history class, especially if it was like the history of Christianity. But if there was something where in context you wouldn't understand it without knowing the history of Christianity, then I think it's appropriate to show that Bible verse that explains, the context of it. So I don't want the Bible or any other religious text completely banned. I just want put in context into the classes where it's appropriate. Um, let's see, Moon, Space Force. Jamie Demeter wants to know: do I want Total War, Unleash the Beast in man once more? What? Uh, so Paul said no. It was just the morning Bible read. That's good. Um, Dinah Cat Loves Me says I think we might want to get people into orbit and to the ISS without using Russia before we count on getting back to the moon. Uh,
True that.
Seriously, I I'm a proud American, and I know that Trump wants his space force and he wants the Air Force to do well, and he wants NASA to do well. But secretly, I'm hoping that Richard Branson with Virgin and Elon Musk with Tesla, I hope they make it to the moon before NASA. I would hope that just an independent company
I can't
could
believe you
make it to the
said
moon.
Branson ahead of Musk. Who are you?
I'm the guy who knows that Misty would swoon over Elon fucking Musk. That's her one, by the way.
Huh?
Huh?
What is that?
She gives Elon Musk the eyes. She has an Elon Musk T-shirt.
Until he started putting a bunch of satellites in the sky, ruining the night sky.
Yeah, Elon Musk is doing it like with contracts through NASA. So yeah, I get that. That wouldn't be totally separate, but I'm hoping that the technology it comes from external sources and not just that publicly funded program. I'm hoping that like corporations see benefit in mining asteroids, in getting to space, and in space travel. I'm hoping that happens. Anyways, right after just name dropping the Artemis program, which had like the entire room applauding, there were a couple moments where the Democrats actually did applaud for like the things that are no brainer bipartisan, you know, softballs. But he then goes to talk about Task Force 814, where the mother and father of a woman who was taken captive and raped and killed after she was giving health care to people overseas
Oh,
uh,
Syria.
in Syria. Yeah. So the he's just talking about how the revenge attack to avenge her death. Um, it was named Task Force 814 because that was her birthday, August 14th. And I'm like, okay, um, you know, go team us, I guess. You know, even though the circumstances that all led up to that can be traced back to policy decision making that causes these problems in the first place. But that one little chapter of us taking revenge on the person responsible for killing one of us, and you don't hear the rest of the story, like how many civilian casualties had to be taken out to get that one person, and you know how much did killing that one person end up pissing off a whole bunch of more people into becoming insurgents and then killing more of us? And it's like, but yeah, we avenged that one person's death,
And the irony is how they started chanting USA afterwards.
and she was a woman, and a pretty one at that. So we have to, take that into account. He's now pandering to the people who care about pretty women rather than,
Pretty white women.
yeah, basically the Fox News bit. Pretty white woman dead. We got to make a news story about that. Um, wow. Then there was Staff Sergeant Haig, who his Bradley tank was hit by the roadside bomb, and so when he's talking about Haig's wife and son, he says that his son's doing very very well. I'm like, the fuck he is. His fucking dad's dead. He's doing well in spite of the fact that his fucking dad's dead. But to say that his dad wrote this letter saying he was going to come back and teach him to ride a bike and all this other stuff, and then he wasn't able to, and then say, oh, but he's doing very very well. My God, you are so fucking dense. Uh
And that kid looked like he did not want to be there.
yeah, he did not. He was consoling his mom who was crying about the details of that letter being read out, in the State of the Union. But yeah,
Using somebody's horrible, tragic loss for political gain is exactly what he was doing.
very staged things. He had these people in the crowd that he was calling out, and they were heartstring pullers. Oh, Storm Singer says that part was when she was feeding her cat, so she missed that part. So it's good that we're recapping things. And Paul says Fox non-news. And Chris says, I like being able to sue a city who lets criminal illegal immigrants roam. You know,
So can we sue every city that lets any
yeah,
criminal out that goes and hurts somebody else?
for any miscarriage of justice because the person should have had more justice run out on them and they didn't.
Yeah.
So then, can it happen to cities that don't protect illegal immigrants, but they do let criminals go that then end up murdering people? Should they be on the hook too? If what they did was too soft on them? Uh, Jamie seems to be quoting some the words to some song I don't know. It goes, "Do you want total war? To see life's will return once more?
But why are you singing it if you don't know it?
Do you want might to prevail? To kick aside the weak and the frail?" I don't know. I don't know the tune, but there you go, belting it out for you. Um, Storm Singer wants to know if those are Slayer lyrics.
Kind of sounds like it could be.
If they
Or
were,
Megadeth. No.
if if those were Slayer lyrics, then I just slaughtered Slayer.
Slaughtered Slayer.
Uh, so next was a part where I thought it was a veiled threat from the president to the country of Iran, where he said, Iran's future is up to them. You know, and he's only giving the positive side, the carrot, not the stick. But it really felt to me like a veiled threat in his State of the Union address of, whatever happens, the ball's in your court. You better be playing nice because there's a decision to be made here. If you know what I'm saying. Um, then there was the staged soldier reunion. So his wife and kids are in the crowd, and he's kept it a secret from them the whole time. You know, the Maury Povich Ellen Oprah show that this State of the Union became. Hey, this was like ripped from a commercial that pulls at your heartstrings.
No, it's ripped from some stupid TV talk show.
Yeah, just fucking a reunion right in the middle of the State of the Union. It was uh at least that family gets to have that to post on their Facebook feed for the day. That's one great moment for them. But holy shit, that was hokey as fuck. And
Wonder if they were like, all right, now you got to turn back. We're going to ship you back. You had your one night of fun. Bye.
yeah. So, among the Outer Space Treaty's main points are that it prohibits the placing of nuclear weapons in space and it limits the use of the moon and all other celestial bodies to peaceful purposes only. Look, it is a peaceful purpose for us to get one of our women to walk on the moon to make our penises feel bigger. That is a peaceful purpose. Um, and Chris, at least he says, yes, Iran chants death threats to us every day in their courts. Which that's true, you know. So I guess it's fair that we have like little veiled threats against them because they're like death to the U.S. Congress.
Do they right? I want to see evidence of that.
I've seen it. Yeah, they're like
Yeah,
death
but
to
was
America.
that when we killed
Yes.
the guy and then they stopped and they're like, all right, we're even Steven. Do they
Yeah.
still do that after the fact?
Well, they still had the red flags all over their mosques, which means that there's going to be a jihad.
Mm.
They didn't do that.
Yeah, but then there were videos of all their people not allowing anybody to stomp on the United States flag and ripping it out of hands of people that were trying to burn it.
Yeah, that was probably the university. So next was the part where Trump said, "Everyone is made equal by Almighty God,
Except illegal aliens.
except those damn illegal aliens. They don't deserve health care." Um, and then this is the part where Misty noticed his dentures were falling out really bad towards the end. He needs some better denture cream. I don't know that it was drug induced this time or like a stroke while he was talking. It really looked more like it was uh, a denture malfunction.
Well, and there was one point when he was walking out and they were filming him like signing some dude's tie. I swear, I think I saw them actually fall.
Ah. Um, so then at the end, when the speech was done, Nancy Pelosi was ripping up the speech
Yeah.
right behind him, visibly, like to be on camera, ripping up his speech.
Civil
Um,
disobedience.
and right after that, one of the reporters said, and I didn't notice this because I didn't know the protocol of the State of the Union, but the reporter said that she refused to introduce him because he was impeached. And
I thought
so,
he did, or she did introduce him.
no,
Who did then? It was a female's voice. That was before I was paying attention.
yeah. So that kind of explained why Nancy Pelosi was trending at number two while we were in the middle of watching, because we were watching a replay. So other people had already seen that and were probably tweeting about it before we saw it. I'm going to give the Iowa results one more refresh to see. Nope, it's still 71% reporting. Um, but I'm just going to answer a couple more questions from the crowd. Uh, let's see.
Can we get their opinions on what they would do if they found what I found that I posted on my Facebook?
What was that?
The clothes.
Oh, um, but I thought they found the kid.
No, that was just a kid.
Okay.
It wasn't his shorts from Iowa.
Okay. So Misty was exploring, and she came across a set of children's clothes with
Just shorts and underwear.
shorts and underwear, and they were just out in the woods.
Kind of. They
And
were in a little pool off next to a creek.
yeah,
And they were tucked along the opposite side of a rock that was facing away from the road.
so Misty wants to know, should she report this find to the police?
And what's like your first thought if you find something like
What is
that?
your first thought when you find underwear and shorts that belong to a small
And
kid?
this is not a very busy area. It's a small dirt road next to a creek that not a lot of people travel.
Yeah. So she's got an ethical dilemma. She's like, does that reach the level where you should maybe
You can
report it?
show my phone if you want to show the picture of it.
Okay. Bring the phone over here.
Hold on.
We're gonna do
Hold your
like
shorts.
I tried to trick her into like showing at least her hand, and she didn't. But anyways, um,
Can you see it on there?
yeah, there's the picture of the shorts and underwear that she found, and she's just wondering if she should report, finding some clothes to the police because maybe there was a kid missing that it might tie to. Dragon Slayer Ornstein wants to know, was there any diarrhea in the underwear?
It was kind of hard to tell. I was actually kind of poking around to figure this out because I was like, is there signs of blood or anything like that? They were black underwear, and you could tell they had been sitting out there for a while because they were starting to be sun bleached.
Yeah. Bruce Shepard says, "How dare you?" and then smiley face, and I don't know what he says. How dare you about? Chris says the uh, biggest problem with the impeachment is there's no clear answer. Nobody can give a clear answer why or what the law has been broken. Just abuse of power. Okay, how? Um,
Because of trying to use his power as the president of the United States to make another country investigate an American citizen,
mhm.
asking for foreign involvement and spying on an American citizen.
So I do believe that there were things that were probably much better to impeach him on. And it was just the last things that he did that they selected to impeach him on when they finally decided that they were going to have the courage to impeach. And this largely had to do with AOC pressuring Nancy Pelosi on Twitter incessantly about each and every time that she was not doing anything when Trump deserved to be impeached for something. So then, when she finally does push her over the edge, the last thing he did was the Ukraine thing. So um, she threw that out. And there were so many other things that you could impeach President Trump for, and they went with just two weak sauce reasons. They could have added more, and like the news cycle for a day actually was saying that they have a chance where they could just add more articles and throw it all at him, and see what sticks, like throwing spaghetti against the wall. They didn't. They threw up two weak sauce things, and then ugh. So Paul says uh, since the underwear's been sun bleached, that the underwear's too old, and so it's too late to report it. So he was originally yes, but if it's been sun bleached, it's like it's old news.
What? How would it be old news? If somebody's child was kidnapped or whatever,
Yeah.
and this was that child's clothing or whatever, I mean, I'm sure the parents would want to still have something about their whereabouts.
Paul seems to think that impeachment number two is coming. That would be
Number two.
that would be weird if a president was impeached and then impeached again.
Well, that's why they said that they were holding back on some things. They didn't throw everything at him.
That would be a first. He'd be the only president to be impeached twice.
I mean, after the Democrats take over the Senate.
Yeah. Which, if the Democrats took over the Senate, he could be impeached and then removed. But that's going to take Democrats winning the Senate, which I don't know that can happen this election.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't pay enough close attention to that.
Oh, Guitar Strong says maybe you should just phone the cops and ask them.
Hi, cops. I want to know if I should report something to you. That's what I'm thinking about doing. I just want to know if it's me and my true crime brain going out of control.
Dragon Slayer Ornstein says impeach him for another crime. Uh, Maybe impeach him for breaking the emoluments clause and having Saudis over patronize his Trump hotel. In an obvious bid to buy favor from him. You know, how about that? Why not that? If you're going to go about the Ukraine thing, why not that? Um, Storm Singer says, "How would either of you fix the healthcare system?"
I'd first have to run for some kind of office that would allow.
Yeah.
I'm being a smartass. First of all healthcare would be included in what we consider healthcare. Mental health, substance use, whatever the case may be. Second of all, insurance companies would not be the ones to decide what health care is given and what is not by what they're going to cover and what they don't. Third, people wouldn't have to have another job just to pay for their health care if their employer doesn't pay for it.
Bruce Shepard wants to know why does the healthcare system need to be fixed so lazy people can get free dope?
There are people who have full-time jobs. There are people that have 2 full-time jobs that can't afford their health care bills, and they have coverage. And then if something happens, like they get cancer, then their insurance company will be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, we're going to drop your coverage." That shit happens. That's why it needs to be changed.
Bruce, you triggered my Misty here.
I just had a coworker that had to have her fucking kidney surgery taken care of, and now she owes $5,000, and she works full freaking time and pays for health insurance. Why does the healthcare system need to? I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry. Those are good points.
These
And
are people who bust their asses every day and they pay taxes after taxes after taxes, and then they get screwed when they need to go to the doctor.
so I'm going to read you Bruce's response. He says, then they need a good insurance company.
Uh, okay, and how? So, Bruce, how do they do that? How do they get that?
That's not the fault of the state. Why should the taxpayer pay for someone's health care when it's the fault of the provider?
Okay, so tell me, how do they go get better insurance?
He says, find another provider.
Really? When all the providers are charging enormous premiums and they all kind of have, especially providers that you go and get on your own, that's not through some HMO or something that you get from an employer. They have, you have higher deductibles, they have less co-insurance, like you end up having to pay more out of the yin yang when you go and find your own insurance.
Mm.
And this is a insurance plan that is being provided from an agency that has 700 employees. How is she going to find something better?
Bruce seems to think that this is a nice generalization without you even looking, but this is actually our experience with all of our clients.
Yeah, this is not a generalization. This is stories that are shared by freaking millions of people in this country. This is why medical bills is one of the largest items on people's credits when they file bankruptcy. I have been in a situation where I have run so many people's credit in high-end apartment buildings and in low-income apartment buildings. Almost every single person has medical bills on their credit.
Uh, Bruce says, oh, so millions of people said it? Name them. First of all,
That's fucking ridiculous.
that is ridiculous, but we actually won't name any of our clients because of confidentiality. But these are statistics that you could look up. What are the biggest bills
Yeah,
that people have when they have their bankruptcies?
there is a government agency that oversees the debt of people in the United States. You can go look up statistics from them about what percentage medical debt is of the debt of people in the United States and how many people that pushes to having to file bankruptcy.
Uh, MWTD 320 says Medicare for all. Know the costs? Let me tell you something. It will require a raise in your taxes, and then that will be offset by you not paying for
Yeah, and
the profits of health insurance companies.
the Koch brothers themselves did research to show that Medicare for all would actually be cheaper than what we end up doing now.
And that was the Koch brothers. You know, they don't have a reason to lie about that.
Everybody talks about USA, USA. In this freaking country, we shouldn't be choosing if we want to live or die based on what we can freaking afford. When it's cheaper to fly to Spain to get surgery than to just get surgery in the United States, there's something wrong.
Yeah. Chris C wants to know: have you looked into what free healthcare is like in Canada and the UK?
Yeah.
Would Canadians trade their healthcare for ours?
Actually, no. There's a lot of Canadians that have expressed that. I actually know some people that used to live in Canada, and that is one of the reasons why they want to go back. Is because of the healthcare system.
I'm sure you can find people to make sound bites for either side on that. But by and large, if they wanted to have the American system in Canada, they could vote for it. We're the only industrialized country that does not have universal health care. And to me, it's
USA, USA.
yeah, it's a matter of American pride. Like if we are the greatest country on earth, if we are having record great economy times, like Trump says, Why can't we afford to spend a little money to give some people some health care? If there's anything that we could do with all of these riches that we have, you know, spend a lot of money on health care and then maybe put a woman on the moon to grow our country's pecker. But first, spend a lot of money on health care and maybe homelessness in our country. I'm all for like housing programs and whatnot.
I mean, if our healthcare system is working so great, why would it be that United States citizens can go to a country such as Spain and get healthcare cheaper? That's including hotel, airfare, everything else. They can get healthcare cheaper in a country that has universal healthcare than they can in their own fucking country.
Have you guys heard of medical tourism? It's a thing where people actually go to uh, Mexican border cities like Tijuana, and they spend their money there on doctors who were trained in America. Some of them American citizens operating out of Mexico, and they can afford to charge much lower rates uh, in those countries. Just across the border. You know, and we have people going there for things like dental implants at a tenth of the cost. You know, we have people going there for all sorts of dental surgery. That's the biggest thing in Tijuana is like go across the border for dental medical care tourism. Now, I can agree that the prices being transparent on our actual free market healthcare system will be an improvement on the existing system, right? Uh,
But that's only half of the equation.
it is only half of the equation. But here's the thing: ironically, if you have these price transparency policies go be enacted, it's going to lead to universal health care because what we're doing is we're clamping down on all the different ways that these insurance companies are making their money. They'll find ways to get around it, and then we'll clamp down on those. And finally, you know, we will play cat and mouse with this game until we finally realize that we cannot hold out any longer. We will come to the same conclusions that every other fucking country has that we need to have universal health care. You know, it is for me, it's more in my perspective, it's inevitable, and those who are trying to fight it are just fighting inevitability. And they just need to realize we need to just rip off the band-aid, go just get it over with.
United Healthcare, who was the first insurance company in the United States, and they started out as a nonprofit. They are no longer nonprofit. Third quarter 2019, they had $5 billion in profits.
So Bruce says instead of playing commie god with healthcare, be a fascist and mandate the capitalist cost. It's what you want, you know it.
What was I talking about? People who think in general terms because it's thinking deeply is too hard for them because lazy thinkers like to use meaningless labels. Watch out, he might ban you, babe. Like he or block you. Like he blocked me off of Facebook when I was schooling his ass on things like this.
Ooh, ooh. Somebody remembers being blocked a couple years ago. That was a couple years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, ish, I
Yeah.
guess.
Long memory there.
Like an elephant. I have the butt of one and the memory of one.
I get a kick out of people that talk as if they will never need health care. Yeah, we're all going to get old one of these days.
Yep. Or where does Bruce get his health care from? Who pays for his health care?
I don't know.
Well, he's here. He can answer that.
Yeah. Mitch Crane says, I never once needed health care until I got sick.
Right.
So it is now an hour and 15 minutes into this session. You guys know that I'm trying to put up some quality content each day.
Oh, I want to know where Bruce gets his health insurance.
We're gonna be up like all night wait for answers like that.
Why? He's a slow typer?
Well, he is now. Oh, uh, somebody else says, "Why is that your business?"
He's arguing about health care. I want to know where he gets his health care from.
I'll just say that there's a lot of Trump supporters that
Or on Medicaid.
they're not voting in their own best interests. And Storm Singer says, "Lulz because nuance is apparently poison." Anyways, guys, I'm gonna call it quits on this
stream. Oh, is he not responding now?
He hasn't responded yet, and it's we're like 16 minutes past when we were going to be done. We're trying not to make this longer than the actual State of the Union address.
Mine is better.
Okay. Rob Anderson wants to know, can anyone explain why we have the highest national debt ever?
Yeah.
You know,
Can Trump explain that?
He should have bragged about it. It's the highest ever. Add it to the list of accolades. All right. So talk to you guys tomorrow. And I think tomorrow's topic will be whatever the Senate votes on the impeachment of Donald J. Trump. And we'll talk it out. See you tomorrow.